Hi, I'm Eva, and I may have set myself up for too much this month, but I'm in an insane reading flow at the moment. Also, can you believe this year is almost over? I don't know about you, but for me it feels like the year just flew by, but at the same time a lot has happened as well. Let me know in the comments what is on your November TBR, and let's get into the books that I hope to read this month. Like, November is kind of like an in-between for me. Like, I love to still read some spooky things, and I also love to read some Christmas things and winter things already. I also have my TBR card with me, so I'd say let's get into the books that I want to read this month. So let's first talk about two books that I really want to read, because I really want to do kind of like a themed video about Japanese fiction, like reading Japanese fiction for a week or something like that. The first book that I really want to read for this is The Idle Burning by Rin Usami. This one is about like a really obsessed fan of a Japanese pop group, and like this fan is spending every single second of her day like completely obsessing over this band, and especially over one person from this band, until this person from the band disgraces himself and the fan's world goes into tailspin, is what it says on the back. And like, this sounds so super interesting, especially with like fan culture. And like, I used to be like a huge fangirl myself when I was a bit younger. I am still a huge fangirl, but more of books than of celebrities now. And I really find like fan culture so interesting, and like the celebrity world so interesting. And I think this is going to be like a really fun and interesting read, and it's going to make me reflect society a lot and like the world we live in a lot. At least that's what I'm hoping it's going to be. It's also going to be like a super quick read, like it's a really tiny book. And yeah, gotta reach that reading goal at some point. And the other book I want to read for that video is Days at the Morizaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa. This one is about this woman who has never really liked reading that much, but because her boyfriend is marrying someone else, she accepts this offer from her uncle to live above his bookshop. And I think she's gonna fall in love with reading, at least that's what I really hope. I think this is gonna be like a really cute and uplifting read, and it's really going to reflect on life and family and love and new beginnings. And that's also what it says on the back here. This isn't quite as short, like it's still a really short book. It has 170 pages. Then for that video as well, I want to read All the Lovers in the Night by Miku Kawakami. I want to read that one on my Kindle, so I don't have it with me right now. This is about a freelance copy editor in her mid-30s. When she sees her reflection one day in a street in Tokyo, she realizes that she sees like a very drab, awkward, and spiritless woman who has lacked the strength to change her life. And she decides to do something about it. But when that change finally comes and she does change, that also makes a lot of painful memories resurface. I also think this is going to be a very interesting read, and it's going to make me reflect a lot about life. I'm in my mid-20s, so not my mid-30s, but you know, getting older is like a lot. Like, life can go in so many different ways, and there's not a real guidebook for it, you know? But like, the pressure from society often makes us think that we have to live in a certain way, and I'm very interested to see what this book is going to do to me and what thoughts I'm going to be having because of this book. Then I would also like to read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is a very, very interesting story about... Okay, so I completely butchered the summary of this one, so I'm going to try this again. Yellowface is about two author friends with varying success. Athena is very successful and Juliet not so much. But when Athena dies, while the two of them are having a pancake eating contest at her house, Juliet decides to steal the finished manuscript laying on her desk and pass it off as her own. I really have a good feeling. I've heard so many people talking about this book and absolutely loving it. So yeah, I have really high hopes for this one. And I've also read Babel last year by R.F. Kuang, and I really, really loved that as well. So yeah, this can't really be a bad book in my opinion. And yeah, I'm super hyped to read this one. And next on my list is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I have read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, both books, These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. And I really, really love them, and I really fell in love with those characters, and I think this one is going to be such a blast. These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends are more young adult books, and this one is like an adult fantasy story. One of the side characters from These Violent Delights is the main character in this one, and I think she has kind of like magical powers, but like not really, but also does. I don't know. Rosalind cannot die, and that's like the twist of this whole story, and maybe there's a little bit more to it, I'm not 100% sure, but it says on the back, assassin, immortal spy. And yeah, then I also really want to continue the Natural series. I want to read the second book of the Naturals, Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The Natural series is basically like Criminal Minds, but with supernatural powers. And there's this girl whose mother has been murdered a few years ago, and she has like these special abilities to profile a person, and she just can do it like without even trying, and like yeah, that's her special ability. And there are other teenagers who have like similar special abilities, but maybe like also like different special abilities. It's a very interesting concept, it's very gripping, and it's very fast paced as well. I've read like the first book in like 5 hours, and most people read it in 4 hours. I'm a little bit of a slow reader, so it always takes me a little bit longer. Another book that I really want to read on my Kindle, but that I want to read a little bit closer to Christmas time, is The Christmas Letter by Emily Stone. This is just like a very cute Christmas romance. And yeah, I basically don't know much more about the story, but I actually don't really want to know more about the story because I think that would spoil it a little bit for me. I think just knowing that it is romance and knowing that like two people are going to get together is spoiler enough for romances. And yeah, I actually just want to go into this book blind, so excuse me for not like giving you a summary, but yeah, I think the title says it all. And then another book I really, really, really want to read, but I don't have my hands on it yet because my bookshop decided to like postpone the shipping, is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I am so incredibly excited for this book. Like basically everyone is or was that has read the first 2 books of the series, Once Upon a Broken Heart and A Ballad of Never After, or The Ballad of Never After. I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next in this trilogy and how this trilogy is going to end and what's going to happen between Jax and Evangeline. Evangeline? I don't know, that's how I say it in my head. And basically, if you haven't heard about it already, the story is about Evangeline Fox. Sorry, I always mess up saying her name. And she has always believed in true love and happy endings until she learns that the love of her life is going to marry another one. And she really, really wants to stop that wedding. So she strikes a deal with the charismatic but wicked Prince of Hearts, who is called Jax. And in exchange for his help, he asks for 3 kisses to be given at the time and place of his choosing, and yeah, it all goes from there. It's all like a very wild and very fast-paced fantasy story, and yeah, it's basically like an insane page-turner, and you fall in love with these characters and you fall in love with this world, and it's all like very whimsical and magical, and yeah, I really love this world. I've also read like the Caraval series, which like you don't really have to, but you should if you don't want to get spoiled for the Caraval series in Once Upon a Broken Heart. The last 2 books weren't like completely up my alley, but the first book was like, I was in love with the first book. With Once Upon a Broken Heart, it was kind of similar. Like I really, really loved the first one, but I didn't like the second one just as much. Like I enjoyed it as well, but it like wasn't as insane to me as the first one, just because, I don't know, I wasn't like in the perfect mood to read that one at the time. But I really have high hopes for A Curse for True Love. And I think, yeah, I'm just going to pick a perfect time to read this one. And then there are 2 more books that I would like to read this month, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to get to them. And the first one being If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And like, I have the special edition of this book. There are also like pictures inside, which is pretty cool. And this story is about Oliver, who has just served 10 years for the murder of one of his closest friends, a murder he may or may not have committed. On the day he's released, he's greeted by the detective who put him in prison, Detective Colburn, and this detective is retiring soon, but before he does, he wants to figure out like what actually happened 10 years ago. And yeah, it all goes from there, and it's like a dark academia story. It's set at university, and yeah, I really hope I'm going to get to it this month, but I'm not 100% sure because like my reading goals are pretty insane this month. There always needs to be some dark academia in November, December kind of, or like October, November, December, and I haven't read a dark academia book this year yet. So yeah, this might be it that I'm going to read, and maybe I'm going to read in December, but we'll see. And then there is one more book that I would love to read this month, but like I don't know how much time I'm going to have left after all of these books, and that is The Long Way Home. I absolutely love the first book in the Magnolia Parks series, Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates. I really don't want to wait to continue this series, but it seems like I might have to. It's not the perfect read for like the season, so I'm putting it off a little bit to like have like this very cozy reading season. But yeah, I really miss this world and these characters, and this is just like an absolute blast to me and an absolute favorite. It's basically like a romance story with these London socialites. It's basically like Gossip Girl, but set in the UK. There are also like these gang lords and a lot of stuff happening there. And yeah, books are basically a lot, but they are absolutely fantastic, and the writing style is super emotional, and like it's a page turner, like you just can't stop reading. And yeah, I really hope that I'm going to read this very soon because I can't wait any longer. So I think those were all of the books that I'm hoping to read this month of November. I'm kind of expecting a lot this month, but I also am feeling pretty good about my reading right now. I feel like I'm having like a really good pace at the moment. So I might even be able to finish all of them. We'll see. I'm definitely going to film all of my reading experiences with all of these books, so definitely stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this video, it would mean incredibly much if you subscribe to my channel. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!